Hey guys, if you want to have great looking grass, you have to do this one method to make sure that you've destroyed all the weeds. If you can get rid of the weeds, you'll have great looking grass, and it's really a simple method. It's not hard at all. Let's head into the greenhouse and I'm going to show you this very simple way of making your grass look its absolute best. Now, having the proper equipment is really critical for making this work, and I prefer this particular 20-volt sprayer. It makes the job so much easier. I used to use one of the pump types where you had to constantly pump it with your arm as you're walking around, but this takes it to a whole nother level. So if you would like to get one of these, they're really great, and I think they work perfectly. I actually have two in the greenhouse. One I use for non-selective herbicides, and then the second, which is what we're talking about today, which is selective herbicides for your grass area, so your grass will survive with no issues and you can kill all the weeds in your grass. So I make sure I don't mix them up, make sure that I'm using the proper sprayer. And if I was to mix it up and use something like a full weed killer that's going to kill everything, then you'll have a problem. So make sure that if you do this, you make sure that you use this sprayer only for the non-selective, and make sure that you have the two separated, or you'll need to do a thorough cleaning with soap and water each time you use it. So guys, depending on how big your lawn is, you could use something as small as one of these half-gallon sprayers up to a 4-gallon sprayer like this, and depending also how much weeds you have in your lawn. So you want to make sure that what we're doing today is we're using a selective herbicide, which means we're only going to kill the weeds and the grass will be protected. If we're using a non-selective herbicide, it kills everything such as Roundup. There is no survivors in something like that. So you want to make sure that what we're talking about today is for removing weeds out of a lawn. And it takes a few specialized products, and I'm going to add a few homemade products to the recipe as well. So let's talk about the most common weeds you're going to find in your grass: dandelion, clover, things like that, crabgrass, and that's going to be the most critical ones you want to get rid of because they can take over a lawn in one season. So we want to make sure that we're targeting those, but this method is going to target over 40 different types of weeds in your lawn. So you're not constantly trying to figure out exactly what product to get. This will cover all of those. So more than likely, whatever weeds you have growing in your lawn, this is going to take care of them very quickly in about 1 to 2 weeks. Now, this particular product is used by most lawn care companies to eliminate the weeds out of your lawn, and I'm going to show you exactly how to apply it, and I'll show you a few alternative methods you can use, some homemade products you can add to this that take the place of some of the more expensive store-bought items. Now, you're not going to find this usually at the big box stores. Usually this is something you're going to have to order directly online, and I'll put a link in the description to them. And as with everything, all my videos, I try to be as helpful as I can and give you all the products that I'm using so you don't have to go to the store and just search for something that may not even be sold there. Now, roughly about 2 or 3 seasons ago, I was having clover take over my entire lawn, and I was having a few problems with crabgrass here and there. So this product knocked it out quickly, it died out, and the existing grass I had growing was able to fill in those spots very quickly. So this will work on the most common of weeds, but like I said, it can cover up to 40 different types of weeds, so you don't have to worry so much about finding a different product for each type of weed you're trying to eliminate from your grass. Now I want to go through each of these products and then give you an alternate solution to them. Now this is a turf marker, and it basically lets you see exactly where you sprayed. Basically it's just a dye. But if you don't want to buy a more expensive bottle like this, you can just go with regular food coloring. Now you'll probably have to use up this entire bottle, so roughly about a ½ ounce per gallon. So you may want to get a larger food coloring size bottle than this, but basically these two do both the same thing. So you're just trying to see exactly where you sprayed, because it's very critical that you don't spray the weeds twice. Spray them once and then move on to the next area. Now next is your surfactant, and this is the brand that most lawn care companies are going to use. Much larger, of course. They're going to be going through quite a few gallons of this during their monthly services. But you can use Castile soap, and this is a very safe form of soap. It's made from organically, and it's made from plants, so you can use either or in basically the same amounts. And the purpose of this product is to get the third product we're using to stick to the weeds. So without this, your results are not going to be very effective. So just make sure you have some type of surfactant, whether you use the professional type or an alternate type like this. Now this is what's worked so well for me, and that's tenacity. And I will say that you need to read the label carefully and research it to make sure the type of grass you have will not be harmed by this. Many types of grass are fine, but there are some types specifically to the label that you can find very easily that you shouldn't use this on. So just remember, you want to do your research before you use this, but this will eliminate all of those weeds, all of the crabgrass, all of the clover, and up to 40 different weeds out of your grass. It's got a very easy measuring thing here, depending on what size container you're going to be spraying out of, whether it's 2, 4, 6, 8 gallons, and how many tablespoons you're putting in there. So it tells you for 2 gallons, you're going to use 1 tablespoon of the tenacity. Now the recipe I'm putting together is for 2 gallons, and so we're going to add our remainder of our gallon pitcher. So whatever size container you have as far as your sprayer, mixer, whatever, you want to make sure that you can either double it or cut it in half. So we're doing 2 gallons today, so all the math should be pretty simple to do. You can either go down to 1 gallon or many gallons, but I'm doing 2 gallons because this gets quite heavy at 4 gallons. So let's talk about the surfactant first, and that's basically just a way of saying the product we're using is going to stick to the weeds better if we have a surfactant. So you can either use something like this, which is a professional type, or what I mentioned earlier, something as simple as Castile soap. Now a lot of people are probably going to ask me, can you use a standard dish soap? You can, but those can be a little bit detrimental to your soil, so just take that into account. But I go with this because Castile soap is very safe for your soils and for your existing plants. So just decide what you want to use, but I go with this because I know it's the safest option. So basically we're going to put in 1 ounce of Castile soap, and that is our surfactant. Now next we're going to put in our dye, and the reason we're using a dye is we want to be able to see where we sprayed, because we don't want to double spray. We want to spray these weeds one time and then move on to the next area. So you can either use something like this, which is a product called Turf Mark, or you can use just common food coloring, and you'll probably need the whole bottle of this. Maybe, I'm guessing this is about a little bit less than half an ounce. So you're definitely going to need to probably have 2 of these for a 2 gallon size, maybe even 3. The purpose of that is we want to be able to see exactly where we sprayed, and we don't want to come back and do it again. So as far as the professional surfactant, the professional dye, we're going to use 1/2 of an ounce. And we have to remember that this is a big chance of causing a problem. So if you get this on your hands, you're going to have dye all over there. It's not highly toxic, but you're going to have blue fingers for a while. So just make sure that you're wearing a pair of disposable gloves that you can throw away once you get through mixing this, because if you do get some on your hands, it's going to be there for at least several days. Now the tenacity itself makes it really easy to measure. You can see that we're going to need 2 teaspoons of tenacity for 4 gallons and 1 teaspoon for 2 gallons. So I'm just going to open this up and try to make sure this is on camera, because I know it's a little hard to see. But what we're doing is you're going to squeeze the bottle, and it's going to raise it just to the right point. It's a little bit hard to see because the bottle's a little cloudy. It would have been better if they would have made this bottle perfectly clear. So we're just going to squeeze that, and we're at the 1 tablespoon mark. We're going to add that. I'm sorry, I said tablespoon. I meant to say teaspoon. So we're adding that. And so that measuring device that's built into the jar makes it super easy. So next I'm going to just kind of swirl this around and mix it, and probably what I'm going to do is I'm going to add water to it to make sure we get all the dye out of it. Now it can stain plastics and things like that, but our sprayer, once we mix it with the 2 gallons of water, much less likely chance of staining. Now this is one of the products I really like to use if I suspect my soils have diseases in them, and that's Listerine, and I use generally about 1/2 cup, and I add it to that per 2 gallons. And the reason is this is going to kill a lot of the diseases that might be in the soil. We've had an extremely humid summer, and so this is going to cut down on those diseases that are in the soil. I do this once in the springtime and then once in the fall, where we're at now. We're at the beginning of fall, and so this is going to really help. So let's add our mix. I'm just going to swirl it a little bit more, try to mix it without making a huge mess, and then I'm going to add it to the sprayer, and I'll show you exactly how to apply it. Now I'm going to add our mix to our sprayer, and I'm going to slosh it around in there quite a bit because I don't want it to stain any of the plastics, and I'm going to rinse this out as well. But I'm just going to flip it over and allow it to drain into the sprayer. The reason I did it that way is I want to make sure I had a good mix and I was getting exactly what I wanted in there without making a huge mess. Up on the counter, it's a little bit harder to do that. So I'm going to let this finish draining in there, and then I'm going to take it outside and give it a thorough rinsing. So let's start the sprayer and head outside, and I'll show you exactly how to apply this to your grass areas. Now here's a really important tip on applying this. When you do this, you want to make sure that you have a very fine mist. This is the wrong type of spray. You see it coming out in a stream like that, and that's absolutely the way you don't want to do it. So you want to make sure that you have it in a very fine spray like that. And you can see there's a bluish tinge to the gravel here. So when you go across the grass, you'll be able to easily identify exactly where you've sprayed. And you only want to spray once. Don't overspray like this. Don't go back and do it a second time. Only once. You want to put a very light mist, wait 7 to 14 days, and then if the weeds are still there, you can reapply. So just remember, you're trying to cover this only where the weeds are growing. You don't need to do the entire grass area. Just cover those areas and you'll see the results. I'm going to put up a picture right here that shows you the after results, waiting about 7 to 12 days, and it worked quite well. Now, as I said earlier in the video, it's really important to you to research the type of grass you have and make sure you apply it only if it's safe. And the label's going to tell you, and you can also do a little bit of research online. There's a lot of information out there about this product, about specific grasses to use it on and not use it on. So depending on the type you have, you want to make sure that you've done your research before you do this, because you can definitely damage your grass and even kill large areas where you thought you were only killing weeds. Now, the great thing about this product, Tenacity, it is safe for pets and children, but you want to make sure that it completely dries. So it could be anywhere from 5 to 6 hours before you should allow them back into that area. And if your pets have a tendency to eat grass and things like that, like cats will do that often, maybe keep them off of that area for at least overnight, and then the next day it should be just fine. Now, a lot of people will think that they may have damaged their grass because they'll see a lot of areas that have light or pale areas, and that is not the grass you're actually looking at. That is actually the weeds starting to lose their color. So once you go through about 2 mowing sessions, I think that will eliminate most of them. Allow it to grow out, mow it kind of short, allow it to grow out, and then mow it short a second time, and then the grass will fill in those areas. It'll have a chance to basically take over the areas where weeds had once been dominant in your grass areas. Now, the way I use this product is I use it in early spring. Now, this can be a pre-emergent or a post-emergent, meaning you can use it before the weeds come out and once the weeds are actively growing. So you just want to make sure that you do it early in the season so you can knock down any weeds before they have a chance to get established. Now, over the summer, you're going to have weed seeds blow in, and different things happen like that. Sometimes birds in their droppings will deliver seeds to your yard. So just remember, it's really a 2-time-a-year thing, early spring and then early to mid-fall, and you can get the weeds under control very quickly once you do this process. And once you have a very strong grass, you can cut back maybe just to once a year, maybe only in the springtime, and see how that works for you. Now, I suppose some people are going to say that Tenacity seems expensive, but when you think about only having to do this once or twice a year, it really does come out to a better price than calling a lawn service or dealing with having to replace sod or reseeding or overseeding. So Tenacity can save you a lot of work in the future if you just do this early in the spring and then see how it goes during the summer. If a lot of seeds are being blown in and you see a lot of new weeds popping up, do it a second time in early fall. So guys, I've made quite a few videos about how to kill weeds naturally, but that was for unselective or non-selective usage where you're trying to kill weeds in a broad area. Something like this you're going to have to use to get rid of grass. There's a lot of different products out there that are selective herbicides where you can not harm your grass, but you can get the weeds to die out. So that's one of the things that I'm just going to say, that you're going to have to use a professional type product. Now, there are a lot of products at the big box store, but a lot of times I've discovered they just don't work well, and I've finally came to the conclusion that you're going to need to buy a professional grade product. So if you have a question about this video or any previous video, and I've got quite a few about weed killing and things like that, insect control around your house, please become a public subscriber first, and I'll answer those questions at the very top of the list. I always put subscribers to the front. I get anywhere from 100 to 300 questions and comments a day, and it's nearly impossible to answer everybody. So guys, I also have a Patreon. If you want to see recipes, free downloads, and things like that, you don't have to pay anything to see those. But if you want to support the channel, I have Patreon content on there. Some content will probably never appear on YouTube, and some of it is early release. So guys, I really appreciate you watching. Have a great day.